Well, look at you. You made it back for another story. So let's go ahead and start another Cinephile Recap. Now, today we'll be narrating a horror sci-fi movie called As Above, So Below. Spoilers ahead, so proceed with caution. Let's begin. The film narrates the hunt for the Philosopher's Stone by a woman researcher, which leads her and her friends to a catacomb system in the city of Paris. When they go deep into the caves, they come across demons and ghosts and find the gates of hell, as written in Dante's Inferno. When they enter, supernatural forces begin killing them one by one, and the only way to escape is to make it through this insane hellhole. Now, before we begin this journey, make sure your seatbelts are fastened, and you are subscribed to this channel and you like this video. And stick around to the end of this video, because it's scary being by myself. Okay, without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight in. Scarlett Marlowe is a researcher in the subject of alchemy, and has been in search of the Philosopher's Stone, which is an alchemy-related artifact that can turn any substance into gold. Her father was a researcher in the alchemy, but he committed suicide, which led Scarlett to continue his life's work. She travels in a bus to Iran, entering illegally, and records her thoughts about how she'll be going into the caves in the country, which the officials will be blowing up and closing soon. She visits Reza, a local who is friends with her father, and he reveals that he has a secret tunnel dug from his house to the caves she wants to explore. Reza and Scarlett go through the tunnel and reach the caves while eluding the government officials. Reza leaves Scarlett after they reach some inscriptions on the wall, worried about his family and how the caves will be blown up soon. Scarlett chooses to stay and studies the inscriptions, and she gets rid of the inscription wall to discover a bull statue, which is the Rose Key. The statue is covered in symbols, and she records it on her camera. When she's returning, she sees an image of a hanging man and is shocked, but the blasts begin and she manages to escape in time and reach Reza's house. She tells Reza how she found inscriptions that will help her find the Philosopher's Stone, but Reza cautions her to not become mad in its pursuit, like her father. Scarlett travels to Paris with a cameraman, Benji, and they visit the grave of Nicholas Flamel, who is the creator of the Philosopher's Stone. She explains how a piece of his tombstone has engravings that can help determine where the Philosopher's Stone is hidden. Using the Rose Key she found in Iran, she deciphers the engravings in the tombstone and translates them into the Aramaic language with someone's help. They go into the church and meet George, Scarlett's ex, who is unhappy to see Scarlett, but she convinces him to translate the Aramaic words, and he agrees. They return at night to Flamel's tomb, but they're unable to decipher it. Scarlett flips the tombstone using clues from Flamel's life, and uses the chemical reaction of cleaning liquid and fire to reveal hidden markings, and she gets George to translate the words into a riddle. Using her father's notes on Dante's Inferno and the 9 circles of hell, which is 741 feet deep in the ground, Scarlett determines that the stone will be 370 feet deep in the ground. Ben inquires how they will reach there, and she explains how the catacombs in the city of Paris will lead them to the Philosopher's Stone. They reach the maps of the catacombs and discover that there may be a secret entrance into the catacombs that will lead them into deeper caves. When Scarlett and Benji go to the catacombs and find a secret entrance, she meets a man who suggests they find Papillon, a guide who knows the area very well. When they turn back, the man is gone, and it is assumed that he was just an apparition. While searching for Papillon in the area, a woman is staring at Benji with intense focus. Scarlett and Benji find Papillon, who is with his girlfriend Susie, and he agrees to lead them into the catacombs in exchange for treasure. The next day, Papillon, Susie, and Zed, a friend of Papillon, with Scarlett, Benji, and George, set out for their quest into the catacombs of Paris. George voices his doubts about going in, but Scarlett manages to convince him. Evading the patrols, they make it to the secret entrance, but a policeman apprehends Papillon, but he manages to escape and follow the group into the chamber, leaving a smoke grenade to prevent the policeman from following them. As the group makes it deeper into the caves, George blames Scarlett for dragging him into the depths of the caves, but she tries to apologize to him. Papillon explains how many cult worshippers come into the caves for rituals and continue walking. The group comes across a path that is littered with bones, and Papillon explains that they will have to crawl over it to continue their journey. Benji is terrified of the suggestion, but Scarlett suggests another route, which might be a shortcut. Papillon refuses to take the shortcut, as one of his friends named Latoupe has used it, and they never saw him again. After a lot of arguments between Papillon and Scarlett, George convinces Scarlett to opt for the path Papillon suggested, and she finally agrees. While the rest of the group makes it out of the tunnel of bones, Benji becomes claustrophobic and gets stuck in the tunnel. Scarlett guides him through it, and when he exits the tunnel, it collapses. The group discovers that they made it back to the same room they had left, and now have no option but to take the path that La Taupe had used, much to Papillon's annoyance. They enter the tunnel and discover a spray paint of Papillon's nickname, but Papillon is shocked as he'd never used the tunnel before, meaning the catacombs are showing the group illusions. They hear the sound of a phone ringing, but George explains that there used to be phone lines here, but the ground collapsed, killing many people and trapping more ahead. They keep walking through the tunnel and find a grand piano that resembles the one that George had when he was young. He explains how the A4 key of the piano does not work, and when he plays the piano's A4 key, it doesn't work, which horrifies him. He asks Scarlet what's going on, while Scarlet keeps hearing the sound of a phone ringing. She follows the sound and finds a phone, picking up the receiver. A person asks her why she didn't come earlier, and a frightened Scarlet puts the receiver down. They keep going further and meet La Taupe, the same friend of Papillon who they thought to be dead, and he tells the group that the only way they can make it out of these catacombs is to go deeper into them. He gives them directions, which leads the group to a well with a rope to help them climb down. When all of them climb down successfully, Benji slips and falls on top of George, injuring his palms. Suddenly, a loud bang goes off, and nobody can hear anything, but an apparition of a small boy can be seen. They reach a dead end, but George and Scarlet find inscriptions that lead them to believe it is a tomb, and if they press the correct button, they'll be able to continue forward. They press the correct button and open a door leading them into a room with a dead man lying there who was not decomposed at all. Scarlet determines that they found Flamel's actual tomb using the Aramaic translation from earlier off their lights. In the darkened room, they see a light shine in the lake, and Scarlet dives in, finding it leads to a room filled with treasure. The rest of the group follows with La Taupe, but his eyes have turned black, and he acts differently. The group celebrates finding the treasure, and is happy as they are rich. On the wall of the room, there is an inscription about how the sun was created, and Scarlet reads it, leading her to the Philosopher's Stone, which is kept in a wall. After removing it, she wonders how it was so easy, and how the whole room might be a trap. When Papillon touches the treasure, the ceiling of the room collapses, and La Taupe gets lost in the debris, while Susie damages her hand. Using the Philosopher's Stone, Scarlet can heal Susie's hand, and thinking La Taupe is dead, they keep moving forward. George and Scarlet see an opening ahead and try to crawl to reach it. George finds an inscription, and Scarlet translates it to mean, "Abandon all hope here," meaning they have reached the gates of hell. Papillon is frightened, but the group has no alternative, so they enter the door. After entering, they reach a room that looks like a mirror of the tomb where the dead man was laying, rotting away, and the path to go back has disappeared. They see La Taupe and Susie approaches him, but he murders her. When the group rushes to save Susie, they find La Taupe has disappeared, and when Scarlet tries to use the stone to heal Susie, it does not work, as she is dead. A grief-stricken Papillon and the group move forward, and Scarlet sees the hanged man again, but it disappears after she turns away. They keep walking and find the tunnels to be mirror images to the tunnels that they traveled through earlier, with them theorizing that they must have reached 741 feet deep into the earth, which is rumored to be hell. They come across another well, with a rope to help them climb down, and when Benji is the last to climb down, he's confronted by the woman who was creepily watching them earlier, and she screams at him, and he falls into the well and dies at the bottom, with the group witnessing his death. Scarlet is overcome with grief at Benji's death, and blames herself. George consoles her, and they keep moving forward. They come across the tunnel with bones, and while crawling through it, George sees an apparition of his dead younger brother. But Scarlet stops him from going to him. They reach the other side where they come across a car on fire with the same man from earlier, who turns out to be Papillon's brother. Papillon is drawn to the man in the car, and when he reaches the car, it submerges into the ground, dragging Papillon into the ground as well, and he suffocates and dies. The group determines that they are in hell, and as they are getting killed by mistakes that they've made in the real world, where Susie must have done something to La Taupe, Benji to the woman, and Papillon to his brother. With only Zed, Scarlet, and George left, George confesses that the 1 week they spent together in Turkey was the best time in his life, and Scarlet agrees with him. They keep walking deeper and come across a black, hooded man sitting on a chair, and escape past him to a wall of stone statues. The statues come alive and try to kill them, but they manage to escape. While escaping, one of the statues injures George on his neck, and Scarlet tries to heal him with a stone, but it doesn't work. Scarlet realizes that the stone only worked once when she healed Susie. The black hooded figure begins surrounding them, and an injured George tells Scarlet to rectify her mistakes. Scarlet realizes that they are now in the last circle of hell, explaining why there are so many apparitions and demons. She realizes that they have to rectify their sins done in the real world and will be able to escape from there. Scarlet realizes that her sin was to steal the stone from the tomb room and leaves Zed and George, returning to the tomb room. She keeps the stone in its original place in the wall and finds a mirror which does not reflect the stone, but instead shows her reflection. She understands that the alchemy power of healing is within every human being, and also herself, and the stone is not real. Scarlet discovers that she has the power of the Philosopher's Stone and can heal George, but while returning back, she sees the hanged man, who is shown to be her father. She hugs the man and apologizes for not talking to him before his death. His body vanishes and Scarlet reaches George and Zed and explains that if they accept and rectify their sins, they too will be able to escape. George admits how he blames himself for his brother's death, and Zed admits how he has a child but has not taken responsibility. They find a well and jump down, falling into the depths and reaching a darkened room. They find a manhole and climb out of it to see that they have escaped hell. Zed leaves the group and goes on his way while Scarlet and George hug, celebrating their escape. The movie ends with an excerpt of an interview of Scarlet, where she admits that she is not greedy for the Philosopher's Stone and only wants to find the truth about it to prove that her father's research was correct. This proves that Scarlet was not searching for the treasure out of greed, but only wanted to know the truth about the existence of the stone, explaining why she got the powers of the stone and why she successfully made it out of the catacombs. What a scary movie. And here's another scary thought for you. You leave this page and you forget to subscribe. No, don't do that. In fact, go ahead and take a moment right now, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.